good evening to everybody who is happening to be in Europe at the moment. It's 5 p.m. here. My name is Margot Waldorf, and I am the founder of the Change Awards. However, today I am in a very, very lovely role, a backup role, and I am hosting the wonderful Charlotte Talmage and the team UUNA, who are going to talk to us about building a future-ready change capability within the organization. So important thing to mention that UUNA has won an award, the Change Award, for this particular project. So we are really looking forward to understand what specifically have they done, how have they managed to build the change capability, have they received any feedback, and how did the organization move forward from once they have left. It'll be very interesting to hear that. But before we do that, I am just quickly going to change my screen to say big thank you to all of our sponsors and all of our partners, Investigo Grace and Cube International, three big names. Maybe many of you already know that. So Investigo is an organization that helps change management professionals to find their new projects and their new home, corporate home. Grace is a lovely little organization that helps a lot of people straight from the university to come into change and transformation, and they provide a lot of training, a lot of learning to those young individuals and placing them in different corporate institutions. And Cube International and wonderful Sarah Hill behind the company, that's a company that teaches everybody who is keen to learn what change management is, how do we do it in practice. That's Cube International. So go to Sarah Hill if you want to learn about change management. And finally, the last slide. This slide shows all of the masterclasses that happened today. Obviously, the one at the very bottom is the one that we are talking about, or going to be talking about, or listening to rather, soon. We have more in the pipeline, so I hope that people will be coming to our website at changeawards.co to see what else is in the pipeline. Now I am going to hand over to Charlotte and the team, and I hope I will not make a big mess trying to change and share the screen, stop sharing the screen. So over to you.
Thank you, Margot. And can everyone see my slides okay?
I have to do stop share. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, so hi everyone. A massive warm welcome. Welcome to your webinar on using lean change to build future-ready change capability. Thank you so much for your time. So I'm Charlotte Talmage. I'm the CEO and founder of UUNA, and we're a people-led change consultancy. So our name is based on the Latin word for together, because as we all know on this call, it does indeed take a village to deliver change. We're also a B Corp, so we balance people, purpose, profit and planet, and we support across a wide range of complex change focus areas like ERP, M&A, organisational outsourcing, right through to culture change. And we've been really privileged to work with some fantastic clients across the last 3 years. There were 3 of us in our award team, and I'll let Dan and Julian, who are both absolutely wonderful, introduce themselves very shortly. Moving the slides along. Brilliant. So we were absolutely over the moon to win a Change Award in April of this year for Future Ready Change Leadership. And so today we're going to share the case study of what we did. An enormous thank you to Margot and the Change Awards for making events like today possible and for really shining a light on our fantastic profession. So we're going to cover what is lean change, what did we do, what the results were, and what did we learn. And please note that today's session will be recorded. At UUNA, whenever we run webinars, our intention really is to have a great conversation together and to share perspectives to uncover best practice that we can all take back to the organisations that we work with. It's part of us being a B Corp, and our mission is to share best practice across the industry wherever possible. So please do put your comments and questions in the chat throughout. It's really important, and we'll have time at the end to answer them. We really want to hear your perspectives and your voices. For us at UUNA, it's about living our purpose, which is to create positive change for positive lives. So this award category that our case study belongs to is something called Future Ready Leadership. So it recognises organisations for developing leadership that can navigate the future challenges and changes. And at UUNA, we do believe that the future of change has to look internal, given that change is such a constant. Move on. I must stop saying every time we have a slide transition, so we'll just move the slide along. So what on earth is lean change that our case study was based on? So lean change, and it doesn't really matter what it's called because we're not slaves to a specific approach or a methodology to change. It's a philosophy that's really important. It layers on to what's already there. It's an innovative and people-centered way of thinking about change. It makes change visual, it makes it collaborative, and it makes it iterative. And it comes from a great partner of ours called Jason Little, and he's based in Canada, and he wrote a great book called Lean Change Management back in 2014. And it's also been brought to life more recently by a wonderful man called Justin Belaski. He's based in Canada too, with some brilliant visuals that you've probably seen on LinkedIn. And we've been doing some work together with Justin at the client who the case study is based on. So two wonderful people. But lean change, it takes the best from design thinking, agile, lean startup, and it emphasizes co-creation, experimentation, and being adaptive over rigid top-down plans. So the thinking is that big, heavy change plans, we've all seen those 200-page ERP strategies that tend to be created in a dark room. They sit on SharePoint unread. And whilst there's some merit in that for big complex change programs, we can instead get to action much quicker by making change more pragmatic, more visual, by co-creating really early with the people who are impacted by change in very practical and time-boxed ways, and then iterating on those plans. So we tend to make these big, heavy plans when we have the least amount of data about a change. So the idea is that we create a good enough plan, we start to take action on it, and we test how the organisation is responding to change, because every organisation is completely unique with a unique context. And based on that really helpful feedback from people, we scale what works. It's actually about measuring more. And as you can see, it's based on a set of really simple canvases, which non-change managers can so easily get on board with. And we have lots of really positive feedback from clients that it's this light, pragmatic approach that they actually get, and that their project managers, their data analysts, their HR leaders can work very simply and build that capability so they're at least delivering a good level of change across their organisation. Before we go into the case study, if I could just leave one legacy in my career, it would be this lean change template. It's called a strategic change canvas. And I would love for every person, whether you're a change manager, I'd love for all non-change managers to have a copy of this and be able to facilitate a really simple conversation with people in their team, whether it's a big program that you're kicking off or it's a small team change, to have the right conversation really early to align people behind the change outcomes we're actually trying to deliver. Because so many problems in change are caused by we're a few degrees off. We actually all think it's something slightly different that we're delivering. And this is just a really simple one pager of having a conversation with people to get everyone agreed or willing to support what we're trying to deliver. And we can share this template with anyone that would love a copy. We really want to spread this best practice as far and wide as we can. Here we are with our lovely canvases across the globe doing lots of wonderful things with lean change. And it's actually, we are at top left, we are at WSP, which is what today's case study is based on. So let's dive right into it. So what did we do? So the client was WSP. They're a big 70,000 employee global engineering organisation. They built the Shard, if you're in the UK. They're an absolutely wonderful client. They're really passionate about their people and they're a real pleasure to work with. But in June of last year, a real visionary actually called Amanda Mackenzie. She's the Vice President of Organisational Effectiveness at WSP. She engaged us to deliver what was at the time a 6-month lean change capability building programme, and we're delighted to still be working with them today applying the same principles and philosophy onto their complex Oracle program because it worked so well. And they wanted a more pragmatic approach to change across the organization. So moving away from, what even is traditional anymore, but traditional change management methods that weren't necessarily resonating with their culture. So think like linear end step models, where we don't necessarily pivot and are adaptive in relation to. And they wanted to build internal change capability, starting with HR leadership, so they could drive change internally with a level of autonomy. So what do we do? In brief, because Dan and Julian are going to burst out some of the lovely detail of this and share our learnings, we designed a 6-month capability building program. There were over 131 leaders that were trained across 14 territories. And from those, we took 11 key influential people across those areas, and we worked with them in a much closer way, and we delivered things like community of practice calls, bite-sized training, working with them one-to-one with a coaching approach to bring to life their real life projects to really embed this learning. We were really proud of helping them to co-create their 3-year UK HR strategy. So that's a case study in itself. We had like 3 calls of like 40 plus people where everyone was ideating and sharing their ideas on what we needed to do to build this strategy. And then we were able to use some more of the canvases to prioritize those actions and work out what the blockers could be. So they got to action much quicker versus a traditional kind of PowerPoint discussion around a table and then cascading that approach. We used it to help them launch a new L&D platform in Africa. That was Cornerstone, co-creating an inclusion and diversity plan in Australia. And it really equipped non-change managers with some brilliant, really easy to get your head around tools to deliver change well. And the result was a whopping 295% average increase in competence, in engagement and confidence when it came to change. And it's now embedded as their default approach. As I said, they're now using it on their Oracle program. We've got some UUNA change managers in there helping them bring it to life, like coaching them to do that. And the beautiful thing is those people that were trained and we work closely with are now acting as internal change agents. So they're helping other people across the globe bring to life and scale rapidly a way of delivering great change. And it genuinely has improved cross-team collaboration, how they can respond to change, how they can think about it, how project manager can build in change to their approach. And then there's a lovely quote from Amanda there where put the canvas up. It's just become the norm. I was on one of their Oracle calls a couple of weeks ago, and I was amazed to hear a data analyst say, "We'll just pull a canvas up and let's work through it." And so, what a wonderful impact to have had there. So, let's get into some of the details. So what did we learn? What was important about making this a success? And there's 3 things we'd love to talk about. So how to train your people, how to build a community of practice, and how we provide practical support. So kicking us off is Dan, who's going to introduce himself and talk about training your people. Over to you,
Hi
Dan.
everyone. Yeah, I'm Dan. I've been in change my entire career. Been really fortunate to be surrounded by people like Charlotte and the rest of the UNA team the whole time as well, where we're focusing on being complexity conscious and people positive. And at the moment, I do a lot of work design type work in the change space, focusing on how we can all do the best work of our lives together. And part of that is using all these lean change tools, which we'll talk about. But I'm not going to reinvent the wheel, and everybody knows already that when you're embedding a new approach or tool set for anything, you need to have a solid foundation of training and also set aside some time for learning for your people. But what we knew with our approach is that the standard, here's a 6-week training course that you have to attend, and we'll tick the box if you've watched all the videos. Approach doesn't really work that well, especially for a distributed organization like WSP, 70,000 people. We initially had a target group of roughly 100 people, grew to 131, and they were spread across HR, leadership roles, project managers, people managers, and none of them actually called themselves change managers. So it was all new to them, right? And we built this out with them. So we set up a structured learning approach, which wasn't here's the training package, but it was actually here are the foundational tools, here are the principles and the approaches. And we set that up as a twice weekly slot. It was completely voluntary. Nobody said you have to attend this. It was a recommendation. And we had loads of people coming. You know, we had 40 people at a time arriving and spending an hour before their working day, after the working day, during the working day. They set that time out to come and learn about the different aspects of different tools. And as that progressed, and we'll talk about it a bit later as well, that evolved from being just a here's the training and the concept and theory, but actually working on real projects. So they were coming as a community and saying, hey, this is an issue that I found, or I'm not really sure how to approach this. And because we'd had that foundational learning put in place, they were able to work these things out together. So we co-created the approach to learning and training, and then that community actually used those tools to co-create solutions for each other. And then we backed all that up with by creating again with the end users their bespoke tools. So the canvases that you see and everything, they're all flexible, and we actually built those out with them so that they had the right guides on them, how to use them, but again, simplicity so that anybody could pick them up. Yeah, so we went through things like introduction to lean change, stakeholder engagement, experimentation techniques, all of that kind of thing, how to use a Kanban board. But really, it was all building things with them rather than just talking at them and delivering training. Hand over to Julian, who's going to talk a bit more about the community.
Thanks, Dan. Hi, everyone. So I think we all know as change practitioners that there's a lot of things that you can learn to do on a change program. There's techniques, there's tools, there's approaches. What really matters is having the confidence and competence to apply them in your day-to-day work. And really, I suppose the way we approached this was to actually build what we called a community of practice. And this was a global community because WSP, as Charlotte said, 70,000 people worldwide. And so we had 2 sessions a week where it was an open invitation for the people in the 131 member community to join us and really share in a safe space how they felt about lean change and how they were practicing it. And it was really fascinating. We had people from Chile, Australia, New Zealand, well, UK even, across Europe, South Africa. So it was a real melting pot of cultures. And I think the most important thing that came out of it for me was this #1 point: create a safe space and role model emotional intelligence. Because if I've learned anything in change, it's like people are open to change when they feel safe. And so if we don't model that ourselves and do it ourselves, we can never create that safe space for our stakeholders and the people going through change. So the sessions were very much based around that. It was about listening, so everyone felt heard, because everyone's got a story to tell. And also for people to share their stories, share their challenges, and really people could question how they could use the tools and approaches that they'd learned in real life situations, and not be afraid to say that they didn't feel confident or they felt trepidatious about using the tools. It was okay. Everything was okay. And over time, over the 6 months period, people who came in at the start who were very kind of meek and not that confident actually grew with their colleagues in these spaces. And it was a wonderful thing to see. They were the heroes, you know, we were just guiding them up the mountain. They are the people that did the work. And I think if there's one thing that I would say about the UUNA approach, it's not like your standard consultants where the consultants are the experts. The people in the client are the experts, and we're simply facilitators that help them connect with the wisdom that they already have, and support them to build their confidence in change. So yeah, that would be my take on building a community of practice. Thoroughly worthwhile thing to do. And I'll hand back to Dan to talk about providing practical support and coaching.
Thanks, Julian. And I'm definitely not an expert. I just wing it, don't I? So when we did after we did our training and we built out this community, the next part for us was being there to provide practical support. And what did that actually look like? Right? We facilitated, as Julian said, we're not the kind of people who'd come in and say, well, actually, the way that you're running this project is incorrect. You should set up and you should approach it this way and that way. It was really going, well, like what is getting in your way from doing the best work that you can do? What are the tools that you have available? How can we work together as a team to find these answers? Because at the end of the day, as Julian said, you're the expert, right? We're not the expert in your vertical. We're not going to pretend to be. We don't have a slide deck that shows it. What we're actually there to help with is provide you the space and the tools to find those answers yourself. So we did a lot of coaching, one-to-one, working group workshops. You know, as Charlotte mentioned earlier, we worked with 120 people in the UK building out their HR strategy for the next 5 years. And by us just providing that space and letting them co-create it rather than it being a top-down discussion, you know, well, not really even a discussion, but this is what we're going to do. The feedback that we had from that was, we've already started the work. So a few weeks after having these sessions, we've already started the work. And we said, oh, well, great. What does that mean? Well, usually it would have gone back if we'd fed this back, gone all the way up to the CEO. The CEO would have said, yeah, I think this and that, and actually pushed it back down. And we would have been about 9 months later, and we still wouldn't have started. But actually, because we've created this ourselves, we're going, let's just start, right? So that's what we were there to do and provide that help from a facilitation point of view. The other side to this that we put in place, and we helped both the leadership teams when we were working with them, as well as the doers essentially, was we're all in uncertainty, right? Whenever we do any kind of change, we don't know what the outcome is going to be. So we worked through this concept of experiment and test. What is safe to try? What is safe to fail? You know, can we try something new out? So that we get the feedback, you know, and the more you try little bits and you get the feedback, the safer it is. Although at the start it feels really unsafe and really uncertain. So that experiment and test mechanism that we worked with them on, and it was really, you know, as Julian said, a psychological safety net, right? Which was a lot down to the leaders who went, yeah, I'm going to buy into this. And then the other part of it was adapting. So whenever we came into a session, we came in with an open mind again. You know, we had our thoughts and, you know, experience as to how we could help a team adopt lean change or adopt a tool. And quite often what we found is, after a couple of weeks working with the team, that the original tool set that we were using had completely morphed, right? We'd adapted the tools, we'd adapted the approach based on what the people who were doing the work actually needed. So whether that was having a Kanban board on a physical wall, using Microsoft Planner, you know, any of the million whiteboard tools you can use, whatever it took for any individual team to be working through that together, that's what we used and we adopted. Yeah, and then we had some really great results coming out the back of it, which I'm going to hit the ball back over to Julian to talk about.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. One of the things that we always like to do at UUNA is to collect data. And leaders on change programs are often very concerned about collecting data at the start of a program, because they know that it's not going to look good. But inspired leaders and forward-thinking leaders are okay with that. And this is what happened with WSP. We said, can we collect some data on how competent your people feel in change, how engaged they are with change, and how confident they feel with change. These were the 3 metrics that we chose. And they agreed to that. And lo and behold, back in June 2024, the scores were incredibly low. This is out of 10, right? So one average, how competent do you feel? 1.8 out of 10 on average. Well, some of those would have been a very, if not naught, then pretty close to it, yeah, if that's the average. Engagement and confidence as well. People weren't confident, they didn't feel competent, and they didn't know how to engage, should we say. But good on WSP for actually allowing us to collect that data at the outset, because it's a baseline from which you can build. Throughout the program, we collected the same data informally, but we formally collected it at the end of the 6 months. And those scores on average of 1.7 had gone up to 6.6, which was a 295% increase, which is great. But 6.6 out of 10, you know, there's still plenty of room for improvement. But I think what we did is we set the scene and enabled them to have a good platform for growth after we had left this particular program. And I think, just wanted to say, you know, the Change Awards, if anyone's thinking of applying, submitting an application, then there's a very easy, very good application process, and the awards make it very easy for you to understand what you need to present to have a chance of success. And we found that very, very helpful. And it's very evidence-based. You know, anyone can say we were great, but what's the data? Well, luckily we'd collected the data, so actually doing the submission was reasonably straightforward. And part of the data is the stuff on the right, which is, we always think words and numbers for data. Yeah, so you've got some numbers on the left and some words on the right. And my favorite there is lean change has completely transformed my mindset on change. Collaborative, pragmatic, and nimble. It delivers real impact. Well, that person would not have said that back in June 2024. That's a fact. At an average of 1.8 out of 10, they would not have said that. So it was very heartwarming, to be honest, to complete the submission, because it helped us sort of clarify what we'd done, and it helped the clients see really the progress they'd made. It sort of crystallized it.
And Julie, if I may add on to there, and you identified this point, as well as managing change, what the client actually fed back is what we've got here is a problem-solving capability.
Yeah.
You know, we're getting people around a room, in a Miro, virtual, or in a room with post-its to solve problems, whether that's aligning on what changes, putting a plan in place, or working out what we're going to do next based on how the organization's responding and what we're going to measure and what we're going to scale. And they've been able to, we ran a couple of leadership offsites with a separate group of people. One was in the UK, and we were able to get them in an hour to solve some of the problems that they were individually facing, but bring their collective minds together to move it forward. So in an hour, and some were half an hour rapid sessions in a very time box structured way, they were able to solve change challenges, or just BAU challenges that would normally be like a lengthy, an hour and a half, 2 hour discussion around a boardroom table. So that's what they're really valuing, and essentially, that's what we are doing in change. We're constantly solving problems to move forward and align people. So, but I interrupted your lovely flow around.
No, that's a really good point. What is change if it isn't like a really big problem that needs a solution? And the lean change way is let's co-create that solution. So yeah, which is kind of what we did. So yeah, very good point.
And so we can get to questions. We've got a couple of minutes left. Our reflections on taking part in the Change Awards. Julian, do you just want to kick us off on here?
Well, the whole experience was actually brilliant, and it's not only about winning. I know that's a cliche, isn't it? They say it on school sports day, it's not about winning. But I really felt personally that it wasn't about it. It was real fun putting together the application, and it was just a wonderful thing on the evening, which was a wonderful surprise that we won it. But I'd really encourage anyone who's done some good work to put it in writing and enter the Change Awards, because it's a great thing to do. And yeah, we feel part of a community now celebrating success of change, and we're happy to do things like this. It's not just about the money, being a B Corp ourselves. It's people, profit, planet, it's the whole lot, you know. And sharing best practice across the industry, as Charlotte said at the top, is like we're in this to create positive impact in the world, not just in the work we do. If people experience change well in the workplace, they'll go home in the evening and they'll be able to embrace change in their lives better. And that for us is a big picture purpose that we're very passionate about. Did you want to say something about that, Charlotte?
I think you said it perfectly, and I'm just conscious of time, so we're bang on 30 minutes if we want to pause there. We've got some example tools and templates which we can walk through as part of some of the question time if that's helpful, but we'll just we'll pause for now.
Yes, I think, my goodness, that sounds fantastic. I was really listening to you guys and thinking, how did that really work out? Was it really a change type of project, or was it a mindset, cultural type of change project? Because I think a majority of the change management professionals will be involved, but I think this is a bit of a reflection of where we are as a profession at the moment, of how we are perceived across industries. Majority of change management professionals will be involved in or alongside typical projects where there would be a change on, I don't know, process or the system, right? And therefore there'll be beginning and the end. Whereas you guys went into the organization and really talked about that capability. And then from my personal standpoint, do you think that this helps organization to, I suppose, target the or out highlight the change mindset, the growth mindset capability across their employees, and help employees to, I think it was Julian's point before, to actually no, I think it was Daniel's point where he said it's okay to make a mistake. I just make those mistakes. It's a whole cultural change, isn't it? It's not necessarily only capability as such, because it's just broader than that, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, Margot. And this isn't compromising any client sensitivities. Another piece of work that which we're just starting to help them with now is how can they elevate the work of their project managers, and the way they've chosen now with the lean change mindset to solve that is bringing a representative sample of project managers together to solve this themselves, to have the growth mindset, to think about what can we try that's safe to fail, that can really drive our programs forward to do the right thing for our clients. So absolutely, it's that shift and that confidence, and actually we've got the answers and we can problem solve this. We just need to bring ourselves together in the right way to have the right structured conversations, and in very simple ways plan what we're going to. Some clients don't like the word experiment, iterate with, or what are the 3 most important things that we can take action on now. Measure more, measure what works, listen to how people are responding, how the organization is reacting, and then pivot again. And we still might have, the big change plan with all the key milestones in, we still might have that classic linear plan, but what we're layering on top is a much more value adding, get to results at a kind of a people positive way of moving change forward that's much more in line with what the organization needs, versus blindly following that end step plan, town hall newsletter, where actually we need to get a fireside chat in place because people need more dialogue at this particular month.
Yeah.
I think our objective has always been, Charlotte, hasn't it, to really almost put ourselves out of business, because really what we can do is we can help clients develop their own capability in-house.
Yeah.
You have consultants that come in, they're really expensive, they do the stuff they do, and then they leave. Quite often the client then suffers from that because they're none the wiser. They might have had an outcome from that project that you flew in on, but they're not left with any value in the business. And our approach is very definitely, we want to leave value in the business so that we come in, develop competence, engagement, confidence, and then go out and they are stronger for it. And the fact that they're still running on this project, that 9 months later they're still running the community of practice, is very heartwarming. It's like
Yes.
wow, they must get something from it. They're all busy people, you know, so they're still doing it. And the reason I know that is that I'm still on the invite. And so, you know, yeah, they're still doing it and they're still getting value from it. And that is really, how good is that? You know, I think it doesn't get better, really.
And the fact that the work that we did was part-time, it was part-time and it was flexible, you know, over the 6 months to support them, because we try to move away from UUNA of that classic, you know, 5 days of a change manager model. It's like, what do they actually need and how can we coach them in the right way on this?
That's a really good point, actually, Charlotte, because we billed our time by the hour, didn't we? We logged our time by the hour, so they got maximum value, which again, consultants generally don't want to do that. So I think, yeah, I think that was forgotten about that.
No, but I guess I think, you know, I think a beautiful learning that I take from the conversation now is that we will perhaps in the future still need, or we are still needing, depending on the customer, right, and depending on the setup, we do still need that to Charlotte's point, linear change management that will be alongside the project plan. But at the same time, what you guys have created, you have created that bottom-up capability. You have created that understanding that we ourselves are responsible, accountable for whatever change is happening to us, or whatever how we want to experience a change. That is definitely a bonus for any organization, because imagine that you know, a huge program of work comes in and then suddenly there is that external help required to do the project change management, program management, and have it streamlined from and governed from that angle. You have a ready organization, already ready employees and ready organization that doesn't necessarily need to have any additional time commitment to learn what change really is, to understand what they need to do, because they are already ready. So whenever anything new is coming on board, they're not resisting that much. I think that would be my take from it.
It's a really good point.
Yeah.
I totally agree, Margot. And two lovely things that I just love about this, we call it a philosophy, not an approach, because it's not like do these things. It's here's a suite of Canvas conversations that we can enable. But the best thing I love about it is that you can give a client 3 things for a non-change manager to manage change really well, or even 2. It's the strategic change canvas that I pulled up earlier, and I'll just come on to that in a minute. You know, your change plan on a page, which is easily created through conversation with the right people. And it's a really simple Kanban board, which is simply a plan, which is like, what are we doing now? What are we doing next? And what's in the car park? And then we say the third thing is a big visible change wall. You know, you stand in front of that Kanban board and your canvas on a weekly basis and you say, well, what 3 things did we do? How did it land? How did people respond? How do we measure it? What 3 things are we doing next week? So it's so simple for any non-change manager to pick up with some basic training. But the case study is all about, you can do that basic training, but the real magic is when you really coach them to bring it to life and build their confidence. That's the key. But the other wonderful experiences that we've had at UUNA with these tools is that strategic change canvas. We've used it at some big household names in boardrooms at an offsite, for example, to help them size and shape their transformation program. So you've got really senior leaders coming together to have this really simple conversation about what transformation outcomes are we actually trying to drive here? How's it linked to strategy and our company purpose? And you can fast uncover that there's a lack of alignment in a room like that needs some further work and needs addressing. So it's the conversation around these tools where the magic really happens. And then, you know, we've run it on big programs where we said, let's just do a canvas. We're 6 months in, just align where you are before we step in with change. And they're like, we should have done this 6 months ago. Because so often change is launched with like a PowerPoint that's circulated, people don't have time to read it, and we're in. And we're not actually all really aligned on what the outcomes are that we're trying to deliver. So as well as it just being like the canvases and the philosophy really simple for a non-change manager to get on board with and fly, it's also really good for complex change to just make sure that you're visually, in a very visual way, in a very simple and pragmatic way, we're all actually aligned on the thing we're trying to deliver. And we're constantly checking in this iterative approach that we're still doing the right things based on how that organization is responding. It's those pieces that I really love about it as a philosophy that you layer onto how you work today.
Yeah, and that you called it philosophy, but actually that's a very valid point to have change management always at the very front of whenever there is this. It's not even, I don't even know what would be the stage gate or what would be the gate or stage of the project, but it's definitely not at design point. It's the kind of a pre-design point where we are, like you said, we're trying to get all that leadership together to think about what is the piece of change that they want to drive, how is it going to align to strategy, and then from that we can derive the case for change. Then we can take that case for change and apply it to different personas across the organization or whatever the change is affecting. But it is fascinating. And one additional thing is that because I'm a practicing change manager, and I really love practice, okay, because there's lots of things that you can learn and you're never bored. But the thing that I personally like is that more often in organizations you are actually invited to have those conversations up front. And I think it's very heartwarming for the profession. So really pleased to hear that Una and you guys all have been invited to many of those conversations, and you use those canvas as well, because like I said, it's such a cool thing and it's so easy.
Oh, I wanted to just pick up your point as well, Margot, about when might you use this, and to answer as well your questions that you put in, is that what we found is whenever it suits, and it comes from any level of the organization. You know, we didn't use any incentives to engage with any of the colleagues. WSP didn't use any incentives. We didn't have any commands from on high going, you must attend, you must do this, any of that kind of thing. And you know, to wrap that into your other question around the cultural change, mindset changes, yeah, the whole point of this is that we're actually going backwards. You know, as a human species, we came together to solve problems, right? Whether that was just we have a bit of a redundancy in the system, you know, if one person has to go off and hunt and gather and they're unsuccessful, well, that's a big problem. But if 2 people out of 10 are unsuccessful, then not really a big issue, right? Our organizations performed similarly. And somewhere along the line, we've lost that concept of, well, actually, we're part of an organization, we're part of a tribe, or whatever we want to call it. And that should afford some redundancy, and that should afford us some space and creativity and innovation. And again, as we go away from sitting on a factory line and having to do the same thing over and over again, it isn't a big project. It isn't a global ERP program that you go, oh, now let's get out the stage gates and then let's get out the canvases and everything else. It's in my day to day, I'm doing new stuff all the time, right? As a project manager, you may be going through 15 different projects every week. You may be over allocated that way. But you may actually go, well, every one of my projects isn't the same, right? And thumbs up any project manager that have any project that ever runs exactly the same way, right? But each one of those has a problem to solve. And that's what this whole concept is how do we bring people together to work out a way forward, just the way that we did thousands of years ago when we started coming together into groups of people and then towns and cities and countries and all the rest of it. It's just an extension of who we are as people.
So gives that purpose to people, perhaps also, which is which links to that Maslow's theory of why are we doing what are we doing, right? Is it because of is it what motivates us effectively? Additional point that you made, and I found also quite interesting, is that because you've provided the organization, when I say organization, I mean people that work, right? Because you've provided people that work in the organization with those tools, you have effectively unlocked that internal need for innovation. Because I think that everybody, if I'm doing one piece of work, and let's assume it's repetitive, who else knows?
Oh, Margot, I can't hear you anymore. Is it just me?
No, me as well.
Oh, you've lost your mic, Margot.
No.
Oh, you're back. You're back. Yeah, you're back. So you said innovation, and then we lost you.
Okay, so what I'm just going to wrap up by saying that you've provided tools for individuals to actually innovate internally, because innovation doesn't mean huge. It can be iterative, tiny little thing, and that is just going to make my work a little bit better day after day, day after day. So you've provided them with the with that tool and ability to facilitate the conversation, I suppose. And overall, I think that is something that, again, my view, but this is something that allows companies to stay afloat, because it allows companies to evolve, right?
Absolutely.
And adapt.
And on that, Margot, you know, if we could give change management a new kind of strap line, it would be facilitating conversation after conversation after conversation to align people behind change, because that's what we're really doing, is that we're not sugarcoating, we're not selling change, we're bringing people together constantly to talk about it, set the right context so they can choose as an adult to support it outside of the meeting room. And these tools are a way of constantly bringing the right people round to have the right conversation, to share their voice, which builds accountability, to create a movement behind what you're actually trying to deliver.
Mm-hmm. And by the looks of it, people are also quite keen to be part of it, obviously, because that was one of my questions which I've posted, like, have they been incentivized? But they haven't. They really wanted to learn, right? So this was
We had
something.
sorry, Margot.
No, that's it. Carry on.
We had
Sorry.
those really good leadership. So Amanda Mackenzie was a brilliant visionary across HR in terms of this is she calls it the sugar. You know, this is the way that we can deliver change really well. And equally in the UK, there was a brilliant chief people officer called Caroline Parsons, who really she was excited about it because she could see what a brilliant pragmatic, different way of handling change. She loved the philosophy behind it. So them championing their energy behind it just really moved the dial on it. And then it's a tipping point, isn't it? So many people are using it that it's now we're going to work visually, we're going to work with canvases. So yeah, great change leadership was a big asset in it as well.
And
And
also,
yeah, one of the
sorry.
canvases, sorry, one of the canvases is literally called the problem solving canvas.
Yeah.
There's no more greater incentive than, if I turn up, will you help me solve my problem? Yeah, sure. It's like, let's get 20 people working out what a solution could be. And we had a great example of a training team who were trying to work out how best to deliver some training, for a rollout. And they left after 45 minutes with 40 different options.
Wow.
That speaks for itself, right?
Mm.
And it wasn't us that said, "Oh, you should go and do this." Right? At that point we were pretty much quiet. We just kept the timer going and helped the conversation along. But everybody else came up with the answers.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal. Really phenomenal. All right. I'm conscious of people's time, and I cannot see any additional questions. If people have any questions, just pop them to a chat. Otherwise, I can keep talking. Honestly, I can keep talking. But yeah, it doesn't seem like there are any. So I just wanted to say, honestly, very, very much thank you for showing up today. Thank you for taking us through this phenomenal concept. I have learned quite a lot. Frankly, proven something in my head that I didn't know existed. So thank you for providing the proof for the existence of that as well. And congratulations on winning the Change Awards. People say thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you so much. Great session. So thank you kindly. Great session.
Thanks,
Thank you, Margaret. And
Thank
in
you,
our
Margaret.
Core philosophy, if anyone wants any of the tools or the templates, we'd love to share them with you, because in our minds, the more people that are using these across the industry, the better. We can all do change better. So please do get in touch and we'd love to share them.